Richard, welcome back to Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be back on your show.
Thank you. And so we're going to start this off, since it's the first week of 2023, with this question. What is lighting you up today? What is getting you out of bed and saying and forcing you out the door to great things?
Great question. A few things. So actually, I'll walk you through what my day looked like today.
Okay.
So one of my friends, he's running what he calls the 6 a.m. club. And so the intention is every day we get on Zoom at 6 a.m. and we state like what we're going to work on for the next 30 minutes and we check back in. And so I joined the 6 a.m. club this morning.
I love that.
What it really shows is I really do value this community and like having external accountability, because for me to wake up each day by myself at 6 a.m., I'm pretty sure it's going to be very inconsistent. But to know that I'm waking up and being in a presence of like-minded people really supports and motivates me. So that's what I started my day off with. And then later today, I'll be making like a 2-hour drive to a different city because I have a speaking engagement. I'll be on a panel. And so that's
awesome.
That's how my day is today. So just like last year was very focused on connection, this year is also very focused on connection.
I love that. I love that. Why connection? Why is that important to you? And why should it be important to us?
Yeah. The way I can put it is I think there's still quite a lack of education and awareness on this topic. The thing I say a lot is, well, growing up, I never had a class on here's how to make friends. And so everyone struggles with it. Some are more successful than others, but there's so many adults that struggle to find those connections and don't have those social skills or have still a lot of anxieties that are holding them back. And so rather than silently suffering with that for the rest of your life, what can I do to support people so that they can build those meaningful connections? Another way I can put it too is this term social health. This is a concept I was introduced to once I got into this connection field and connected with other researchers and practitioners. Mm-hmm. But basically what social health is it's this whole dimension of our well-being that's not really being addressed and discussed that often. We talk about physical health and mental health, but social health in terms of what is the quality of our connections and how do we feel about that, it's my hope that it can be as common as a term, hopefully like 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a lack of social health education and awareness. So that's why I would say connections are important. Otherwise, people feel stigmatized or there's shame around discussing this topic when really it's a fundamental need that all humans have.
Agreed. And I've never heard that phrase, social health. And it really spoke, like, it connected with me when you said that.
Yeah.
To think of this whole idea of social health. I love this. And I hope that it's normalized long before a couple of years. Like, let's do it in 2023, man.
Yeah. Well, now you're a part of it and all the listeners are part of it now that you have this in your vocabulary. So hopefully you can start discussions around it too. It's like, how is your social health?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel that there is a, maybe there's been a downturn in social health with the rise of people constantly texting on their phones, not like thinking that communication really happens behind a text message? And to me, a text message should be saved for I'll be there in 5 minutes.
Right.
Not a big, huge, meaningful conversation, because you miss to me almost 100% of the meaning of the conversation, because you can't hear anything. You hear no inflection. Right. I mean, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, that's sort of the paradoxical thing where in some ways we could be quote unquote more connected than we ever are with like the amount of friends and followers we have on social media. But is that a real connection? Mm-hmm. And when I think about connection, I think to Brene Brown, whom I'm a big fan of.
Me too.
And she has a definition for connection, and it goes along the lines of it's the sort of energy you feel from a relationship when you feel seen, heard, and valued, and that it's non-judgmental, and that you get strength and sustenance from the relationship as well. And so thinking of all those different criteria of being seen, heard, and valued, and you get actually strength from it, whether or not you get that from a text message depends, I suppose. But when you have a face-to-face interaction, I think that's where you really get that sense of, oh, I'm being seen and heard right now, and I'm getting energy from this
Yes.
type of interaction. And so that's actually what distinguishes it from like making it a real or a meaningful connection.
Yeah.
Is the feeling behind it. So I do think it's possible to make meaningful connections online. I mean, we're connected, even though
Yes.
we've never seen each other in person in the same physical space. But it's sort of, yeah, trying to, I guess my encouragement for listeners is to sort of think for themselves, what type of interactions do you want to be having? Because sometimes text messages are just practical because it's an asynchronous thing that you send people messages and they get back to you when they can. But if you're looking more for that deeper conversation, maybe it's then you transition to making plans of like, hey, do you want to grab coffee, or do you want to meet for an online Zoom chat and that sort of thing? Yeah.
Maybe it's a good starting point. And to deepen the connection, then, I mean, there's just something about seeing the person or especially being in a room. If people ask me all the time, will you do a virtual presentation? Yes, I will. But I will also be honest enough to say that if there is an option for an in-person, I will take that every time, because I love the energy that comes off of people when you're physically around them. It was the whole lockdown thing was so, like, I just wanted to be out. Like, just let me go to the grocery store. I promise I won't touch anybody,
Right.
Just let me be around that energy of people.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference. And for me speaking as well, the thing I find weird on Zoom is like, I don't get people's immediate reaction, because in a physical room, you can hear people laugh or you can see,
Yes.
their facial expressions, whereas everyone on Zoom is muted. So
Yes.
it's a bit weird not
Right.
to get
Or
a
they turn their camera
response.
off and you're just looking at a picture
Yeah.
of them. It's
The,
difficult.
though one thing I wanted to share as well, because I know last time I was on your show, I was sharing about my book that was recently
Yes.
launched, and then you had asked if like, oh, maybe there's a book club. So something has emerged between
Yay.
last time we chatted and now when we're chatting. So I'm launching a year-long program called Connection Club, and my intention with this is to give a consistent place for people to practice their social skills and work on their social well-being.
Wow.
Because it's, again, I don't know if there's really that many spaces for this. And so I will be taking some content from my book, but also more generally as well, like bringing in guest speakers, me teaching various content and knowledge that I've accumulated over the past 2 years. So people have practical things that they can apply in their life and work on their social health. So I actually did my first session of this yesterday, and it went well.
Oh, I'm so excited. So we're going to get to the how can we find you later, but since we're talking about this, how can we dig into this? How can we connect to your connection year-long
Connection
club
Club,
here?
yes.
Yeah.
It can be found on my website, so people can still join
Okay.
throughout the year. The more the merrier, obviously. And yeah, so my website is excusestoconnect.com.
Okay.
And you will be able to find a tab there under services currently that says Connection Club. So it'll explain what it is. And also I've had some interesting learning in the process of launching this program as well. I don't know how much we're talking about business development, but I find it an interesting topic.
Let's talk about it.
But originally I launched the program by setting a price. I'm like, this is how much you pay for it, and this is what you get. But I had several people reach out to me saying, okay, this is beyond my monthly budget. And then I had to think about, okay, well, I'm trying to run a program about connection, but people are feeling excluded because of financial barriers. So there's a contradiction to me in terms of my values.
Yes.
But ultimately, I came to the conclusion that, okay, I want to run this on principles of accessibility and inclusivity. And so I changed it. I'm just testing this out, but I changed it to a pay what you want model. And theoretically,
Wow.
then it should be accessible for anyone that wants to join. So this is much more of like an impact driven initiative for me that I want more people to benefit from it.
Wow. Wow. So what has the response been to that? I mean, I love it. I
Yeah.
think it's absolutely beautiful. What has the response been then to pay what you want? Has it been um a beautiful experience, or has it brought frustration with pay what you want, or pay what you can, I guess is more like it. Pay what is in your budget.
Yeah. Um, once and I switched this because of the feedback I was getting. And so when I changed it to a pay what you want model, suddenly it became more like people that wanted to join but couldn't join before could now participate.
Yeah.
And so I was able to get more registrations that way. Uh, yeah, so I think the model is working out. Um, in some ways, perhaps I'm being paid less than if I were charging like a set price. But the way I see it anyway is for my connection club, uh, it's not going to be my largest source of income.
Right.
It's meant for impact, and then I can focus my income on professional speaking and high level mentoring with people.
Yes.
So yeah, this feels right to me. Otherwise, I would always have this thing hanging over me of like, well, people want to join, and I know it's going to benefit them, but they can't access it, and they feel left out because of finances.
Yeah.
So
I totally get that. And especially right now I mean, I don't know how it is where you are, but our local energy supplier place is called NYSEG, New York State Electric and Gas. And they just raised our rates 38% across the board. 38%. Like you got a bill last month and then you got one this month. And you're like, what just
mhm,
happened? You know, you're going to the store to buy eggs and all of a sudden they're $4, $5, $6 a dozen when they used to be 99 cents.
yeah.
And so, I love that you're doing this now because I feel like people are scared. They're really just the feeling you get when you're shopping and you're watching young mothers with a calculator trying to figure out if they're going to buy milk or eggs
Mhm.
because they both skyrocketed in price right now. So what you are offering is just so beautiful to make this accessible to everyone. It's probably not at all what most business coaches would tell you to do.
Yeah, I brought this idea through my business mentor as well, and we talked through it. But ultimately, I'm like, this is what feels right to me, so I'll follow it.
I love that. I love that. I know that. I mean, I know of any business coach that I know of would say, you're crazy. Don't do this. And you have to follow your heart,
Yeah.
especially maybe from someone who, as you said in the beginning, struggled to connect. And so you have been on the other side of the door. And you know what that door feels like. So let me ask this question then. What
Yeah.
does it feel like to be on that side of the door of wanting desperately to connect and not having a clue how to connect?
Um, yeah, I can remember a few instances where this same feeling has come up. Uh, okay. So when I was going to university, and I didn't quite know anyone. Yes, I was like fresh there in my first year, and I would sort of overhear conversations of people of like, "Hey, like." I was just observing, but they're like, "Oh, let's go to the club later, or let's go to this event, or are you coming to this?" And so me just observing that, I got this sort of pang in my heart where I'm like, oh, I wish they would ask me. I wish I
Mm,
was invited to whatever they're doing.
yeah.
And so it's sort of this sense of like, oh, I'm literally like so close to it. I'm hearing it. But the sense that like they didn't think of me, or like I hadn't built that connection enough yet that they would invite me, or so on. So it was it hurt. Like
Yeah.
that sense of exclusion. And I know it's not quite intentional, but just being around that where like other people have access to it, but I don't quite have it yet.
Hmm.
And so yeah, it hurt, but also I realized later on too that it also does take effort from my end, that things like this don't just land in your lap.
Yeah.
It does take some intentional effort, but
Yeah.
also it can be easier than you think as well. um I was It's interesting, this past holiday season, one thing I was reflecting on too is like last year, uh as in 2021, not 2022.
Hmm.
In 2021, I remember during the holiday season, I'm like sitting, I mean, I was at home with my parents, but it's sort of like, wow, I'm sitting here alone in Christmas and at New Year's Eve, and I don't have any plans. And seeing all these posts on social media of people, with plans. Again, that
Hmm.
sort of same feeling came up of like, why am I not being invited to these things? Or where are these things that are I know are happening, but I am not there.
Yeah.
uh, and contrasted that with this past season in 2022, where like I was invited to 3 or 4 different events. And so and ranging from people that I met maybe just 2 months ago and people I met longer ago. But it sort of just shows like, oh, that's a very drastic change that has occurred because I put in the effort to work on my connections and community, because I know that's
Yeah.
really important. Yeah.
So, um, in sharing that story, that's a huge difference then in 1 year.
Yeah.
What are, if you shared like one main point or two main points
Hmm.
to people who are saying, gosh, I connect with that. And I would love to get to the other side of that door where I'm actually being invited to things and feel comfortable to go.
Yeah. Yes.
What are one or two main points that you could share just to kind of wet the whistle for getting into this connection club, and so kind of we know what we're getting into? Because I think if someone is drawn to a connection club, they're also afraid to connect because they're also afraid to join because they don't know how to connect. So it comes this,
Yeah.
this round circle. So
Yes.
what are a couple of things you could share with us?
Yeah, definitely. As I was launching this program yesterday, I also had to think about, well, what sort of values do I want to shape this community around? And I came to 3 different words.
Okay.
One is authenticity.
Mm.
So the sense that you can show up as you are. Because I know, and it's natural, like for us to sort of present the best version of ourselves to the world, though is that truly what our authentic self is? Are we
Yeah.
trying to pretend or present a version of ourselves that might be more socially acceptable? And
Hmm.
so I emphasize that authenticity piece, that it's okay to be vulnerable, and hopefully I can cultivate a safe space where you feel comfortable with doing that. The second word was shame free. uh,
Mm.
Shame is a big it's a I've probably, like, my relationship to shame is the biggest thing that transformed me over the past few years, like getting
Mhm.
more knowledge and awareness that one, what it is, and how I was experiencing it, because shame is the sense that like you're not good enough,
Yes.
or there's something flawed or unworthy that makes you
Hmm.
undeserving of like connection and that sort of thing. So yeah, I it's really important that I cultivate this shame-free space where there's not judgment, like that
Yes.
people can you are where you are currently. And
Yeah.
that I want it as a encouraging and supportive space. uh and seeing that like social skills and social health is something that you can work on. It's a skill like anything else that you can practice and develop.
Right.
And like learning other skills, like say learning a language, you're going to make mistakes and that's okay. It's part of the learning process. And so to have a supportive space for that.
Mhm.
And then the third word is implementation. So it's really important for
Mm.
me that practice or connection's not just theoretical. It needs to be practiced and
Right.
internalized, because I could talk about connection for hours, literally. But people actually need to take some action and experience it for themselves. And that's when things start to shift. So I'm a big believer in 1% improvements in the sense of like taking small steps and celebrating those small wins, because those 1% improvements every day compound over time. And then you're in a drastically different place
Yes.
if you remain consistent to it. And so authenticity, shame-free, and implementation are core values that I'm trying to run this by. And just as an example, one question I asked everyone when we started yesterday is like say a few words about how you're feeling coming into the session today. And so people said like excited and nervous. And I am like, I am nervous too, because the start, I mean, for different reasons, perhaps because I'm the facilitator, but it's like the launch of anything new always has a sense of like nervousness to it, which I know will settle down because I know I'm capable of running these things, but you never quite know. Like there's a bit of uncertainty with starting anything new. But I've learned over time to lean into that discomfort, because that's where I can grow.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love these 3 words. I wrote them down: authenticity, shame-free, and the implementation. That's powerful. Very powerful. I'm excited. John Maxwell has a book called Everyone Communicates, Few Connect. And I think that's very, very true. I love the book. I've read it a few times, and that key piece of connection that most of us miss. And you're out there doing the work, helping others connect, which is a beautiful thing. I'm so excited. I'm going to encourage everyone to go and check out this group and this club and get involved. Here's your chance. Here's your chance to connect with someone who is a specialist in connection. So no better person to be with, as far as I'm concerned, than Richard Lee Tye. I've just grown to be very fond of you. So I would encourage everyone to check this out. So we talked about your website, excusestoconnect.com. Is there any place else where we can connect with you, or is it all on the website?
You can connect with me on social media as well.
Okay.
And again, you can make meaningful connections through social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at my name, Richard Lee Tye. So that's spelled Richard. And then my last name is Lee space Thai.
Okay.
So you should be able to find me on all those and send me a message. I check my messages regularly.
I love that. And he does. He answers my messages so fast, even when I don't answer fast on the return. That's my struggle, what I'm working on in 2023. And how about a journal prompt? And I will link all those too in the show notes. Yeah. So it's just a click and find Richard Lee Tye. A journal prompt for our listeners, please.
Yeah. So we started off our conversation with social health. So I want to give a journal prompt around that. So you can think about, how is your social health currently, and where would you like it to be?
I love that.
Yeah, that can give you sort of reflecting on, well, how are things currently? And it might be okay, which is fine. But there still might be things that you want to improve about it in terms of, I want more in-person connections, or there's certain people I want a deeper relationship with, or I want to meet more new people. So it's sort of that subjective reflection on what it is that you would need to feel socially healthy.
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm going to be journaling on that. And I would really encourage you to journal on this and then message Richard and say, this is what I came up with. How can your connection club help me? Because I already know it can.
Yeah.
And this will get people thinking on a deeper level.
Yes. One quick thing I will mention as well. So not directly related to me, but I am connected with many other organizations.
Yeah.
There's an organization in Canada called the Gen Well Project, and it's focused on helping people generate wellness through connection. And they have a great 12 question questionnaire on their website. It's a social health assessment. Okay. And so it's just a series of 12 yes or no questions. And then it'll give you results of based on your responses, your social health is good or poor or excellent, etc. So that can be a starting point as well. So Perfect. The website is, or the organization is Gen Well Project, and then they have a tab right at the top with the social health assessment. So that could also help with your journaling.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna do this. I'll let you know what my assessment says about me. So
Yeah.
Gen Well Project. And is
Yeah.
that .com, like genwellproject.com or .ca
Oh,
maybe?
I think it's .org,
Okay.
but don't quote me on it. Don't
I will look it
quote
up.
me on it.
I
But
will look it up and I
I
will
can
link
send
it.
you a link,
Okay.
Carrie, that you can include in your show notes as well. But
That
Genwell,
sounds
as in
perfect.
GENWELL project.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, this is going to be great. And then what are your Pow Pow shoes today?
Yeah, today. I think last time I mentioned is like creating meaning or unique connection experiences for people.
Mhm.
I think today I will mention something slightly different so I don't
Okay.
repeat myself. I think my Pow Pow shoes are connecting with connectors.
Mm,
Because even with my TEDx talk of finding excuses to connect, I'm sort of positioning myself in this way where I care about how other people are creating connections, because
yeah.
it's a movement. Like, I know realistically that yes, I can impact some lives, but there's billions of people out there.
Yes.
And so it does take collective effort to make this change. So I'm
Yeah.
very interested in like how other people are making these connections. Even recently, one of my friends shared this page to me. So there's in Canada, there's a city called Vancouver,
Yeah.
and someone there started a project called We Should Be Friends. And so literally they just organize meetups for anyone to come, because people are looking for friendships.
Yeah.
And when they first moved there, it was hard for them to adjust because they didn't know anyone yet. So they wanted to start this initiative to help other people who are feeling lonely.
Oh,
So
beautiful.
projects like that, I know exist all around the world, either on like a grassroots level or like an organizational level. So yeah, I am very interested in continuing this work for the rest of my
Yes.
life and seeing how I can collaborate with other connectors.
I love that. And that is a well needed power in this world today. I feel like we have become disconnected in the past couple of years, and that reconnection piece is crucial. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for hanging out with us on Coffee and Tea with CarrieVee. I know you'll be back. I know you will be connecting with all of these listeners. So reach out to Richard Lee. He's amazing. Richard Lee Ty. Sorry, I always leave that last part off.
All
And I don't
good.
know why I do that. Reach out, connect, and learn what you can. You're an amazing person. So thank you for hanging out with us.
Oh, thank you so much.